Hey, writers! Today I've got Victoria Marie Lees with me. Welcome, Victoria.
Hi, thank you for having me, Sarah. This is a pleasure.
Likewise, I'm always happy to talk to Victoria, but writers, this is going to be super fun today because I have never had the privilege of interviewing a writer who writes short stories for the magazine market for kids, and that is exactly what Victoria does. So let me just introduce you, Victoria, to our writers here just a bit. Victoria is an award-winning poet and author. She has published in Chicken Soup for the Soul, Business Insider, and national magazines and anthologies such as Cricket Media, which we're going to talk about here. She leads writing workshops at libraries and assisted living centers on various topics in fiction, memoir, and poetry. She also helps beginning writers one-to-one to hone their skills. And when Victoria isn't writing, she can be found camping and hiking in the mountains or enjoying her children and grandchildren at the beach. One thing's for sure, she finds inspiration for her creative work from family, adventures, and nature. And we are going to talk a whole lot about this, I'm sure, because I know the kind of short stories that you write.
Yes. Yes. So ladies and gentlemen, what Sarah's trying to tell you is that I like to write short, okay? The
Yes.
essays and the short stories, poetry.
Yep. Love it. Love it. So, I think just to kind of establish some frameworks here for our writers who, especially those that maybe are newer to the KidLit world, we throw around a lot of these terms, and I just want to make sure that people are aware of what we're going to talk about here. We've got, picture books and early readers and short stories, and in some ways, sometimes these terms are interchanged incorrectly. And so we want to make sure that writers are aware of when to use what. So first of all, why don't we start with the short story, since that is your area of expertise. Tell us what the writers should be thinking about when we're talking about short story.
Well, short stories, like Sarah said, that's what I write, and they're generally longer than a picture book or an early reader, and they everything is told through the text, okay, through the language. It doesn't have a lot of pictures and things of that sort. Although when I sell to magazines, they always include a picture or two about my story. But the story itself is told through the words as
Okay,
opposed to like a picture book.
yeah, I love that you said that because writers, picture books should have the pictures telling a significant part of the
Right.
story as well.
That's
The
right. That's
pictures
right.
and the words really have to work together. Whereas in the short stories like you're talking about, it sounds like the pictures are going to maybe supplement or highlight a scene
Only
that's happening.
supplementing. That's right. That's right, ma'am. So it's like in short stories, since they are so tightly written, you don't have time to say, well, she had blonde hair and blue eyes, or, she had a nice tan, or what color her bathing suit is. It doesn't matter. You have to pick and choose vital
Yes.
information only. Mhm.
Yes, very good. And then just for the writers as well, the early readers are a whole different thing. Though that's more for the educational market. That's when we're writing stories and books for the purpose of teaching children to read. And so sometimes those might be thought of as short stories, but they're much different than what's being published in a magazine market.
It's the vocabulary because the
Yes.
children are learning to read. So you have a simple vocabulary and a simple sentence structure. So it's not that you're using baby words as much though, but words that the children sight words and things of that sort that they're learning in school. They want to be able to read independently, and then they will have illustrations and pictures just to help with the content. But picture books, like you said, Sarah, the pictures show the story more than the words for picture books.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so very good. I just wanted to make sure that everybody was kind of starting on the same level here with what we're talking about. So now that we got that out of the way, tell us,
Okay.
how did you become interested in writing short stories?
Oh, I'm a storyteller like my father. I've been telling stories around a campfire for my children since we started camping with the family. And it's like I said, I took the tradition from my father because he would tell stories with me and my siblings being the characters. We would sit around the picnic table at nighttime. We'd have candles burning, and Daddy would make weave stories. Well, that's what I did, like I said, around the campfire with the kids, with my kids. But what I like to do is I like to hold the story in my hands, okay? The beginning, middle, and end. I know where the character is in the beginning, and I know what I want him or her to be like at the end of the story. You need action and you need um oh sorry, the protagonist, the main character, and in other words, I just think in scenes.
Yeah.
Sarah, I think in scenes and where I can place this character and what kind of trouble I can get him into. And then, of course, how I can get him out of that trouble.
Yeah, I love
Yeah.
that. What kind of trouble can
Oh, oh, I'm terrible to my characters, but nobody really gets hurt. They don't like that in the magazine markets. They don't want the
Sure.
kids. Yeah, we're not talking
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. So what kind of, I know that you write a lot of action short stories that are influenced by your travel. Is that the niche that you stay in, or do you write different types of short stories?
I like the contemporary adventure stories. Okay, and like you said, darling, I place them in nature, and since we've been to a lot of national parks with the children, with our family, I place it there in the national park, and then of course I make problems. Like I said, I put them into danger, but nothing that's like life threatening. The key with writing for children and stuff like that, the main character is the protagonist. He or she has to have the knowledge base that she needs to figure out how to save herself and whoever she's with to be the hero of the story. They have to be the hero of the story.
Yeah. So you talk about putting your characters into trouble. What
Oh yeah.
what kinds of trouble are they getting into?
Oh, darling, I like danger, and I like, yes, I do like wild animals. And the thing is that cricket bought one of them too, where I had my kids get lost in a forest. Excuse me. The family dynamics is important with short stories. With for the children market, the family dynamic. And I've had broken homes, I've had blended families, I've had families in the military. This is just different ways to set up the story. You have to have a family dynamic. But when you write short stories, it can only be about the children or the protagonist. And then I always give them a sidekick, which is a younger sibling or a cousin or somebody. And I always choose the underdog and I place them in a dangerous situation and they have to figure out how to get out. Now, when you write a short story, just like any story, you have to prove to the reader that the main character has the knowledge he needs to solve the problem that he's in. Okay, whether so with me, it's like where I learned something from the park rangers. I listened to the park camp talks, so that the things that I use to help them solve the problem they've learned before, and you set that up early, Sarah, so you don't tell him right at the end when you he needs to figure it out. Oh, that's right, I know how to do this. No, you set it up before so that the reader will forget about it, and by the time it comes at the end, oh, that's right, he knows about sycamore trees, or they need the water. Follow the river back. He remembers which way the river was rushing, and he went back to found back his way back to camp. But I add danger. They come across a mountain lion, and I know what you're supposed to do when you have dangerous animals because the park rangers
Yeah.
told me. So the writer has experience, and that's how she's showing it through her characters, of course, but she has to explain how they know what to
Yeah.
do.
Yeah. Okay, so within the short story itself, we've already talked about you've obviously got your main character and you mentioned some side characters and some
Hmm.
conflict through this trouble that they're getting into. These are all things that we would find in any form of literature, whether it's a picture book or a 100,000 word novel.
Hmm.
So, what else are you using in short stories that we would find perhaps in longer fiction, even?
So the thing about the short story, we have that tight word limit. Okay, you need to shorten the scope. Usually use one instance, one time frame. And if you have just a few settings, because like I said, you don't have a lot of space for description, you don't have a lot of space for backstory, but you still need it. The backstory, of course, tells the reader why the protagonist acts the way she does, is her reasons to be. So you still need that even in short story. But you start the story right in the middle of things. What is it? In medias res? Yeah. So you start right there when the action is beginning. I had cousins going down a river in one of my stories that they bought. So my main character, I always take the underdog. Okay, he's a little nervous. His cousin, they've both been canoeing for a long time. And I show that in the story so that the reader doesn't say, "Oh my gosh, two young kids, young teens." I usually write young teens, 13, 14. They're going down the river by themselves. They don't know the river. Yes, they do. Their families always went. They went together with their fathers. Now they're trying it on their own. I called that story "Rite of Passage." But we have to show the swiftness of the river and how my main character was nervous about this. But I also explain other things like, he tightened his life jacket so that they know that there's a life jacket. He's watching the water go by with a log go by. It's swift today. We have to pay attention, Jude. What's going on? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Stuff is all fine because one's an alpha male. But the thing is, my underdog is going to be the hero. So that when the guy who's the big shot and he thinks he knows everything, the boys are the same age. My boy is just trying to get his confidence up. So even in short story, you need an internal problem. Okay, what's holding the story protagonist back from being that hero he needs to be? Okay, then of course you have your external problem, which is in one case is rushing down the river. Okay, in
Mm.
another case they get lost. He has a new little sister. One of my characters came to visit his father, and he had remarried and they got a little girl, whereas they only had his he was the only son, the only child. So he enjoyed his adventures with his father. That's what's bothering him. And the little sister's pesky, I was like, "Are we there yet? I don't want to walk there." I set that one in Sequoia National Park. So the father, this is how you can get them. You got to get them separated from the parents. Oh, take the little Stephanie over to go see the big trees, the sequoias and stuff like that. Okay, so he did, and he's it, inside his mind worried about it's like I don't want to do this, and I liked it better when it was just me and Dad. We could go into the back country, but now they have to have a tent, and everything has to be very nice and sweet because the wife doesn't like the camp, the little girl doesn't. So there's all those problems, darlings. So he's inside his mind worried about it, and then of course outside things happen. They come across a mountain lion. Okay, they come across some bear. You know, so those kind of problems. But then they end up getting lost because because of the problem I put in there, the child gets lost. Now it's up to him to find a way back because this little sister is only like 5 years old. So that's how he becomes a hero, and he decides it's not too bad to be an older brother. But
Yeah.
yeah, you need to have the internal and external problems, small time frame, start it right off, show things when I say details, where I'm planting them. Just little tiny bits and pieces. Look at the sizes of the pine cones. Look how massive the trees are, this kind of thing. Um, yeah, just have to keep everything short. Oh, you have to like,
Yeah.
Sarah, you need a goal. Even in any kind of story, darling, there's goal, there's motivation to accomplish the goal. And then of course there's the conflict. You have to have your
Yeah.
conflict. Yeah, stories should be laced with tension and problems the
Yeah.
protagonist has to work out.
Yeah. So writers, I mean, the things that we expect in longer forms of fiction, they are in shorter forms of fiction as well. And so for anybody who says it's easier to write short, I don't know that they've ever attempted to do so because as you mentioned, you just really have to be very intentional about what goes in that story
Yeah.
because you just don't have much wiggle room to work with.
No, you don't. But I mean, even in novels, you don't want it all padded and stuff like that.
Yeah.
With novels, you're gonna go off into other tangent places that are important to the main story. But in a short story, there's only that one. There's no side story or
Yeah.
characters where they're gonna. Yeah, it's all right here, focus, hyper focus, right in the
Yeah. Love it.
story.
Love it. So you mentioned that you have written for Cricket Media, of course, and
Yes,
writers, this can be a great way to build writing credentials, to get more credentials into other,
absolutely.
whether it's magazines or anthologies and books and things like this. And you've published in a few other places yourself. And may may I may I fangirl about your book for a minute?
Oh, sure,
So,
sure.
writers, we're gonna just take a little sidestep here because Victoria just published her her memoir, which I'm gonna hold up here. This is a great book, writers, great book. And it is not KidLit, but the reason why I wanted to talk about it here, even though we're pretty much talking about writing kids' short stories, I just think that Victoria's book is all about how she got a college degree, but not just from anywhere. Like you worked your way up through community colleges, all the way up through the Ivy Leagues, and got all this college education
Yeah.
while raising five children. And this is so amazing. And writers, I think there's a lot of parallels to
Hmm.
the experience of being a writer, while whether it's raising children or um, having a lot of obligations and responsibilities in other ways. I just think that it is a great book for demonstrating the power of perseverance and
Yes, ma'am.
determination, which of course is the title of the book. But maybe could
Exactly.
you just give us just like a little encouragement here to the writers who might be feeling like I can't possibly I'm not in a position to take on hard things right now. I'm not in a position to work towards these big goals I have. I'm just going to wait until the time is right. Can you maybe just offer a little bit of encouragement for these writers?
Yes. Um, so, ladies and gentlemen, think of it like this, okay? If you never write, if you never send something out, it's always a no. So, the thing is to write something down because you can't revise what's not written. And what I think is wonderful now, I started writing back in the olden days, typewriters. You guys don't even know what that is, right? But with the computer, when I approach a story, like I said, with short stories, I like holding them in my hand. I see where I'm going to start, and I see how I want the protagonist to change. Don't forget, s- story, if there's no change, there's no story. Okay, the characters have to change. And it's usually an internal change, especially for the children's market. The child matures and starts to believe in himself. And that's what Sarah was saying about my college memoir. I learned to believe in myself to obtain that Ivy League education. It wasn't easy. And and story writing is not easy either. But like Sarah was saying, short stories are a great stepping stone if you even if you don't want to just write short, like I like to write short. But it's a stepping stone because in a short story, like I said, just like a novel, beginning, middle, and end, you have a protagonist, you have backstory, which explains to the reader why the character acts the way she or he does. It has a goal. The characters are always out for some kind of goal. They have something in mind they want to do. They need motivation and they need to understand what's keeping holding them back internally from reaching that goal. You you have to try, guys. You never know what tomorrow's going to bring. Right? Try your story. Yeah, and everybody just starts it out. And like I said, with this computer, I'll start writing and I'll start writing. Okay, I don't know how to bridge this in the middle, but I know how I want it to end. So with the computers, great guys. Go over a little bit. Here you go, Vic. Put in the ending. Oh, and then I have a scene. I know what this I want to happen, and you can add that. And then I just kind of start to meld it together, the story. But tight, tight, tight. So don't even worry. Like if you're writing a 2,000 word story, you write it all out, then you're going to know. You say, okay, well, gee whiz, Vic, this is like 2,500 words. You got 500. So you start to take out little things. Then you start to take out chunks if it's still too long. And you have to decide if the scope is right for a short story. But it's easier to start with a short story than I'm going to write a novel and just start,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. Yeah, we got to try. And one thing I picked up while reading your book as well is, you took the steps that you could took when you could take them, even though they were very challenging. I mean, you
Oh,
would never, if you had waited for the right time, you never would have had a
I
right time.
know. Absolutely. Absolutely. I had a lot of stuff to get over, a lot of baggage myself to get
Yeah,
over to go to college. And I
yeah.
was trying to help my daughter as well.
Yeah, it's a
So.
great book, writer. So we'll be pointing people to that as well. Victoria, this has been a great conversation. I want to make sure that people know how to connect with you. So what is the best way for people to do that?
The best way is to go to my website, www.victoriamarieLees.com. And there you'll find lots of things you can learn about my books. You can sign up for my newsletter. I do a newsletter just once a month. It's a short newsletter, and I try to share writing tips, my experience, any programs that I can come across that people might be able to do if it's online. Um, and that's the best place to find me, ladies and
Yeah.
gentlemen. Yeah, would be on that.
And I think you had a resource for our writers as
Oh,
well. Do you
yes,
want
ma'am.
to talk about that a bit?
Yes. So even in short stories and with children's magazine markets, you're still pitching that story to the editor. So the PDF that Sarah's talking about is going to show you how to pitch to a magazine editor. Now, when I say pitch with children's writing the stories, you have to send the whole story. The whole story is there, but this little letter, which is going to be short, okay. In the old days, it was one piece of paper. Now I know they don't do paper; it's email. But a lot of the magazines use submittable.
Yeah.
And that's also on this PDF too. I got all the information in there for you. And I also offered some of my examples of the published stories, my pitches in the beginning. You need to tell the editor, why is this a timely topic? Why is it right for these readers? What's the angle that you're approaching it with, and why should you write it? And that's like your experience. And maybe like me, I had visited all these national parks. I've learned all the information from the park rangers and things of that sort. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's so generous. Thank you.
Hmm.
That's very generous
Yes.
of you. All right. This has been fabulous. I really want to thank you for your time and for sharing your expertise, Victoria. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. I truly appreciate it. Had a lot of fun.
All right, writers, thanks for joining us, and we will see you next time. Bye.
Bye.